All right, shalom, shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, double honors to my elders and apostles of great millstone, which are the men that rule well, the men who taught us his truth, peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. And Lord willing, the title of the lesson will be "The Inward Must Be Changed." It'll be a quick lesson. I don't have a lot of scriptures. It's not that lengthy. But going into this topic at hand, man, the inward must be changed because I can speak from my experience that it's all about the change on the inside that matters, growing in the spirit, maturing in the spirit, different things like that, becoming a better Israelite man is what an Israelite man, woman, and children is what this thing of ours is all about. All right. And I'm going to just start off in Romans, the 2nd chapter, and jump to Ephesians, the 4th chapter, because those are the best scriptures to read for this topic, man. And some of the best scriptures, because there's definitely other precepts you can go to that are going in even deeper on this topic. But why make something so hard to understand when I could just simplify it and teach it? While also mentioning my own experiences. All right, didn't want to say that the wrong way, but one thing that we do in this truth, man, is we make lessons according to our experience and our growth, not just our knowledge. It's also about our wisdom and the growth that we've obtained, our experience. Or when we come out of a trial, we teach about it, teach about the things that we went through and what did we learn from it, so that you can learn. So the inward must be changed because, like it says in the book of Jeremiah, break up your fallow ground, and when you come into this truth, you're filthy, believe it or not. Your mind is polluted with the ways of the world. Even if you weren't so far gone into the world, you're still unclean in the sight of the Lord, which is funny because in Romans, the 2nd chapter, speaks about circumcision and uncircumcision, which represents that cleanliness and uncleanliness, because if you're uncircumcised, that's like being unclean, and if you're circumcised, that's like considered to be clean or keeping the letter of the law, right? Which, in this world, because we always, if you read the history, the uncircumcised was the heathen. That's what we mentioned when we mentioned uncircumcised, we was calling the heathen that. You see, because they were unclean and they weren't circumcised, right? But in the spiritual sense, we come into this truth and our hearts become circumcised, or our hearts become clean because circumcision is of the law, right? It's part of the law, statutes, and commandments, And when Yahushua came on the scene, okay, he made our flesh was clean when we knew we were Israelites, but because we had the sacrifice of the animals, right? But some of our hearts were not. You see, Yahushua came to cleanse our minds. That's why I'm going to grab Ephesians, the 4th chapter, okay? But nonetheless, I'm going to grab Romans 2:27. And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision does transgress the law, which we're all transgressors of the law, right? Which was being mentioned here with Apostle Paul saying, so if someone that's not circumcised and then they fulfill the law, can't they judge you, who by the letter and circumcision does transgress the law, right? Because if someone keeps the law, can't they judge you by it, right? For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. So being an Israelite is that of being an Israelite inwardly. It's not just the outward. Now, of course, when we come into this thing, grow in our faith, we keep the law, statutes, and commandments outwardly, obviously, but there's certain things that we do and don't do. Certain law, statutes, and commandments we can kind of put aside because of wisdom and the position that we're in life. We can clearly grow out our facial hair and not get lineups and things, the easy stuff like that. But wearing fringes and things like that is not something that we have to do right now, at least not in our daily life, because it's not wise to put yourself in a predicament where people know what you're about. Okay. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, verse 29 again. And circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High. Because that circumcision, essentially, it's more important to have your mind clean, all right? It's more important that you're conscious and your heart is purified, all right? Meaning you're keeping the law of faith, you're trying to keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. You see, that's what's really important. Now, we are going to keep the law, statutes, and commandments outwardly as well to the best of our ability, but what's more important, don't miss the point, which is the cleansing of the heart. Okay? That's the point of this. I didn't want to go too deep into what's being said here and the different words in the Greek, just because for time's sake and also for understanding's sake, man. You know, sometimes you don't have to go that deep to see what's being said here. Okay? So Ephesians 4:18 says, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of the Most High through ignorance that is in them because of the blindness of their heart, right? Which, you know, real quick, applying that to the other Israelites that don't know who they are, right? You got to think about it like this. Those are the people with the uncircumcised hearts, all right? Because some people, some Israelites are circumcised in the flesh, but not in heart. So why does it matter that they're circumcised in the flesh, right? That's kind of like what's pretty much being said up here when you read up, right? What does it profit you to have that physical circumcision if your mind is not clean? You see, okay, your physical is clean because what? Circumcision of the flesh is a cleanliness thing. It's part of our law for a cleanliness reason, but it has spiritual meaning behind it, right? So, you know, even heathen get circumcised. So, you know, what's the point of keeping that law if your mind is filthy? You know, you don't believe in Yahweh Shai, but you're circumcised. What does that avail to you? You know, what profit is that, right? Salaki is getting real. Let me just turn this AC on real quick. So it's like I'm in my car, so I don't want to be in here dying of the heat. But nonetheless, verse 18 says again, verse 19, who being past feeling have given themselves over to lasciviousness to work all uncleanness with greediness, right? Because that's what being uncircumcised of the heart is. Partaking in unclean things, being into if you're in the, you know, being in the world, man, you know, if you're into homosexuality, you're unclean. If you're into doing drugs, you're unclean. If you're into worshiping other gods, you're unclean of the mind. You see? Verse 20, but ye have not so learned Yahweh Shai? If so be that ye have heard him and have been taught by him as the truth. Also, like, the truth is in Yahweh Shai. That he put off concerning the former conversation, the old man. And that's the cleanliness of the mind. Putting off the old man. Putting off the old you, right? Put off concerning the former conversation. The old man, that conversation, that word conversation is anastrophe, which is your conduct, your manner of life. You have to put off your old manner of life, right? Which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, because your old ways of living are corrupt. All of us, man. All of us that were in the world, our old way of living was corrupt, man. You see? And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that ye put on the new man, which after the Most High is created in righteousness and true holiness. That's where that inward growth comes in, because I titled it, The Inward Must Change. The inward has to grow, your mind. Because that's where, there's a reason why in the scriptures it says, you know, his heart, our hearts, right? Because our mind, where cleanliness starts is in your mind. That's, your heart has to be changed. For you to make a true change, your mind has to change. Even with things like in the world, like carnal things, and you know, that we do in this world, like weight loss. For you to really lose weight, there has to be a mind, like especially if you're really overweight, there has to be a whole mindset attributed to it. You don't just lose weight by giving it a little bit of effort. To really make a change within your body, you need to make a change within your mind. You need to have that discipline. Right? That's just an example of your mind being changed. But for this situation, I'm talking about your mind being changed for serving Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, realizing that we lived in a situation where we didn't worship Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We lived like heathen. We worshiped Jesus or Allah or whoever, whatever you were into before coming into the truth, right? That's you putting off the old conversation, that old man, all right, the former conversation, which was corrupt, right? You putting off Islam, Christianity, or whatever religion you were into, or whatever way you were living, right? And being renewed in the spirit of your mind. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, like it says here in verse 23 in Ephesians, right? And that you put on the new man. What's putting on the new man? Putting on the scriptures. All right, doing what Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai told you to do. Praying, fasting, going to camp, teaching, preaching, you know, reading the scriptures to the best of your ability on a daily basis. Listening to videos. Listening to the virtual epistles, right? That's how you renew yourself in the spirit. Mostly through prayer, fasting, and reading, and learning the true doctrine of life, of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. That's how you renew your mind. You put off the old works. You see, it's not a complex thing. So, because I don't think I mentioned it, but the things that we teach here is not something you can go Google. You can't Google how to fight a demon. How to get an evil spirit out. You can't really Google search those things. You only a man of the Lord can tell you how to do those things. That's why it's important for us to do these lessons and for you to watch the lessons, right? So verse 24 again says, and that ye put on the new man, which after the Most High is created in righteousness and true holiness. Right, putting on attributes of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Man, let me get the attributes real quick that we need. I believe it's 1 Peter's. It might be second. Salakia. Yeah, 2 Peter, Salakia. So, because I went into what we need to do, which is changing your mind, your heart, right? I wasn't gonna grab this, but the Spirit was on me to just grab it real quick, because the inward must change, right? Because being an Israelite is that of being an Israelite in your mind, being an Israelite in your heart first. Change your mindset first, and then the flesh follows, right? So, let me get some attributes that we need. Because essentially we're all striving for salvation. That's the end goal. We're not trying to just be good Israelites just for the sake of being, well, of course there's nothing wrong with being a good Israelite for the sake of being a good Israelite, but you can't just be an idle Israelite. That's why everything is just everything is tied together in this truth, man. You don't come into this truth just to be an Israelite on the sideline. You're supposed to come into this thing and expect salvation, because that's what's coming. That's what's promised to us from Yahweh Shem Yahushai. We can worry about just being chill Israelites in the kingdom. Right now, we gotta work, man. But nonetheless, let me stay on topic with this. The change starts in your mind. So we need to acquire certain attributes. And you can't search this up, man. Only a man of the Lord could tell you, put the pieces together for you. We need to acquire certain attributes because we're making a change so that we can receive salvation. We ain't changing just to be some cool, chill, laid-back Israelites. No, we're making this change because we want salvation from our enemies and salvation from this flesh. Not too long ago, I made a video about salvation and what it is and the two aspects of it, right? 2 Peter 1:4. Whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Right? Did we not just read about that in Ephesians, where the people that are still into those things, or our former man, our old man, our former conversation was corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, right? We were corrupt when we were in the world. We were corrupt, man. Our flesh was unclean. I wouldn't want to say our spirit was unclean, because essentially we're all pure. If we're of the elect, we were pure. We just were lost in the world. So it says, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust, because we lusted out. Everything in the world was just lust, right? And beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, which I recommend you, Akim, look up the words that is given for diligence, faith, virtue, and knowledge, right? Actually go back, do your research, and look up those words, because these are the things that we need. So the first thing we need is diligence. Well, faith, first off, everything is with faith, but to your diligence, because we're all being diligent, right? We're all in this race. Add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity. A bit of a mouthful, but we need to look up all those things, because that's what we need. How do we know that? This is what Peter said in verse 8. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Because and this thing about, we come into this thing to serve the Lord, right? And for us to remain in this and to continue to grow in this, the change must start with you. You can't teach somebody else if you ain't learned. Did not Yahweh Shai say, pull out the beam that is in thine eye to pull out the mote from thy brothers? Roughly paraphrasing if I misquoted a Salakia. But we have to obtain these attributes through prayer, fasting, and reading, man. Okay? For these things be in you and abound, they shall make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Yahweh Shai Mashiach. But he that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off. Right? that's the thing, man. When you don't make a change within yourself, you're gonna fold for certain trials, and you don't want to do that. You want to be able to grow with it, with your trials. You have to grow. You have to grow in this truth. It says, and hath forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. Wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, ye shall never fall. Right, and that's why we must grow. You don't want to plateau on this thing. The change comes from praying, fasting, reading, all right, learning, and then what? You apply it to your daily life, and you grow as a man. You grow in your mind. Okay, that's why I titled it, "The Inward Must Be Changed," because your inward mind, your man, your true self, your spirit dwells in your mind, so your mind has to be cleansed. Your mind has to be changed for you to become a better Israelite. Your mindset. Okay, so it says, make your calling, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, you shall never fall. Right, because if, like it said up above, if these things abound in you, it'll be so that you're not barren or unfruitful. If they abound in you, these different attributes of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. All right, so those are the things. Those are all the precepts that I wanted to bring out. All the topics that I wanted to touch on, man. Well, it was one topic, but nonetheless, man. Hey, keep in mind that the inward must be changed. Okay, we have to put on these scriptures. We have to put on these different attributes that Yahweh Shem Yahushua told us to put on. All right, so hey, we gotta change. We gotta change our mindsets, man. We gotta grow in the spirit. All right, the inward has to be changed. So with that, all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Bashem Rechak, double honor to elders and apostles, a great millstone, which are the men that rule well and taught us his truth. Peace, blessings, and salutations as always being to the elect. Shalom.